We've finished our three-city tour of Italy and have rented a car in Rome and on our way to our ancestral home in Roseto, Valfortore, Italy. So you can see on the maps, about 60 miles east of Naples, up in the mountains to a tiny village that's about 2,300 feet up into the mountains. Quite an exciting drive it will be. Although the drive will be about 4 hours, the last 53 miles will take us more than 2 hours to get up the mountain. All single lane roads, and thank God there is nobody coming the other way. And as you'll notice, in this area, there are a lot of wind turbines. The wind turbines were set up by the German and the Dutch and the French, and a main source of power to everybody up in the mountain. Many times the car never made it out of first gear, and we averaged between 6 and 12 miles an hour. And we have arrived at Roseto, Valfortore. The name Valfortore is because it is on the Fortore River, and Valfortore means Valley of the River. And Roseto is Rose of the Valley of the River. This is a view from our balcony of the bed and breakfast. And across the street, where that little white sign is the Salumere Sabrocchi, a relative of mine that obviously owns that market. It's a cozy little bed and breakfast, and for 60 euros a night, it was more than comfortable, and we really enjoyed it, especially the view from the balcony. And boy, that drive can make a person thirsty. And here's our first stop right down the street at the local cafe to have, you guessed it, a gin and tonic and a spritz for Erica, which once again is Prosecco, sparkling wine with Aperol bitters and tonic water. And we really enjoyed this little cafe. On our way to our first tour, we came across this small square that had a fountain in the middle with 4 heads with water spewing out so the locals could fill their water buckets. In the town main square was a monument. The monument was for people who died in the Great War, the First World War in 1915. Many of the names on this monument were connected to my family. The Sabrocchis, the Falconis, the Ruggieros, they are all listed there as have died in the First World War. This is the entrance towards the Santa Maria Church, or if you will, St. Mary's Church. There are 4 such entrances to an area that basically walls in the church. They used to have doors that were open from dawn to dusk, mainly to keep the bandits away. Santa Maria Church has a festival each year celebrating the Assumption. My hometown of Cleveland has an area called Little Italy, where the Church of the Holy Rosary also celebrates the Assumption with a 4-day festival, usually attended by more than 100,000 people. These are the front doors of the church, and this is a look back from the front doors of the church towards the town square. St. Mary's is a pretty little church built in 1507. Not overly ornate like other churches in Italy, but it does contain a painting that I really liked, which was of the ascension of the Mother Mary into heaven. Outside, back at the entrance, is a banner of the patron saint of Roseto. It is Saint Filippo Neri, or Saint Philip Neri. The church that my family attended while living in Cleveland, you guessed it, Saint Philip Neri. We next went down to the Valfortore River to see the grist mills. Roseto was known for his grain harvest and used paddle wheels on the river to power the mill and grind the wheat or barley. Our next stop was a bakery, and this is the oven that was used to bake the bread. Notice as we look into the oven how far back the hole is in the floor where the heat would come up to heat the oven. And next to it, in order to get that bread all the way back there, were these long poles with baskets on the end for the product. They must be at least 15 feet long to be able to push them into the oven to get all the way back to the heat. As we stroll through the streets of Roseto, we can imagine how my ancestors lived. My grandfather, Filippo Sabrocchi, his father, Domenico, and his father before that, Luigi, born sometime in the 1700s. The funny thing is that these names are common to that area. There were many branches to these families, and the only way to identify a certain clan was to give that branch of the family a nickname. The family nickname of our tour guide was Prosciutto, for whatever reason. Her boyfriend's family nickname was Ulysses, because his father watched the movie. Without speaking Italian and staying for days to talk to the locals, we couldn't ascertain our family nickname. But I guess it would be Probiscus, as my dad and his brothers had noses the size of Utah. While in Roseto, we learned that their 2 restaurants were closed for a 10-day vacation. So Erica went to a couple of local markets to pick up some grub. One was the Salumeria Sabrocchi across the street from the B&B. Yogurt, cookies, 2 packages of salami, a delicious round of bread, a huge hunk of cheese, and a tub of olives, all delish for $14. This is a view from the plaza outside the Roseto City Hall, looking down into the valley towards the Valfortore River. Just amazing and beautiful. The road leaving Roseto was not quite as daunting as the one coming in, since we were headed in a different direction, but it was pretty close. Now imagine the Rosetians that had to go to high school. They had to travel this road, and their high school was almost an hour away. After leaving Roseto, we tried to go to Pompeii, but tickets to enter the city were sold out. I merely had to read in astonishment that Pompeii was destroyed in the year 79. Mount Vesuvius spilled ash 12 miles into the sky and buried Pompeii under 30 feet of ash. It was a seaport city that nobody could find for almost 1,700 years because the ash made it more than a mile from the sea. Read about it, you'll be amazed. Since Pompeii was not available, we traveled and found another great restaurant in the city of Salerno on the Mediterranean coast. It's a resort city with great beaches and was a worthwhile stop. Thus concludes our Italian journey from Venice to Florence to Rome and this last visit to the home of the Sabrocchis, Roseto, Valfortore, Italy. Blessed with perfect weather, a perfect and understanding daughter, it was certainly the trip of a lifetime. Thanks for watching. Arrivederci, Italia.